everybody. Thank you so much for your patience today. This calls to order the February 20th meeting of the City of Los Angeles City Council, and we'll have roll call, please. Thank you.
Mayor Brooks,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Dexter, here. Councilmember French,
Here.
Councilmember Kidd, here. Councilmember Meredith,
Here.
Councilmember Moran,
Here.
Councilmember Sherman Warren,
Here.
Manager McKee,
Here.
Attorney Ward.
Here.
Thank you.
And we'll do the pledge of allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This thing is going to be, as we're going to have ceremony letters, is non-dated here.
Yeah.
So, come on up. Thank you so much. Come on up here. We've got a proclamation here. This proclamation is in recognition of the public service as Toastmasters International. Whereas Toastmasters International is a leading organization in making effective oral communication a national and international reality for all people, all persons, by helping people develop essential communication skills, Toastmasters International performs a valuable service. And where more than 8 decades of outstanding achievement, Toastmasters International has grown over 15,900 clubs in 142 countries, with 340,000 members worldwide and over 6,000 members in the state of Washington. And whereas Port Angeles Toastmaster Club was formed in 1949 by a group of World War II veterans, today there are over 63,000 Toastmasters clubs worldwide. Port Angeles Toastmasters Club is number 25, one of the oldest clubs in the world. And whereas Port Angeles Toastmasters Club can boast having a state senator, several mayors, council members, port managers, and many local business owners among its past members. Over the years, several members have competed in the World Championship of Public Speaking and placed well. At least 3 of the members have gone on to become professional speakers. Now, thereby, I, Sissy Burke, Mayor, on behalf of the City Council of Port Angeles, do hereby recognize Toastmasters International and their efforts to teach individuals the power of speech through the ability to speak in a clear and effective manner. That speech is a powerful and important skill that can help individuals overcome barriers in virtually every endeavor and line of work. So here you go. Thank you. And I got to tell you, reading for the Toastmasters, I have to watch my language in my speech.
Well, thank you. I'm Don Bailey. I'm the current president of the club. We meet Mondays, 7 to 8:30 at the Clallam Transit Center, and we're always happy to have new members. We help people speak effectively.
Thank you so much. And the next item is we wanted to recognize Dan DiGiulio. So I just want to take a couple minutes to remember him. When I first met Dan DiGiulio is when I got on City Council in 2011. And I was very glad for his very quiet and straightforward leadership. So Dan DiGiulio died at the age of 68 on Tuesday, January 30th. He came to Port Angeles in 1995 and served as a general manager of the Clallam County Transit System until 2005, when he retired. 2 years later, after his retirement, he began to serve our community in a very different way. He was elected in 2007 to City Council and again in 2011. He also served as mayor twice during that period. Many thought of him as a fair, thoughtful, and a special part of our community. To me, what really speaks his character are his words, which teach us well. He said that if I have to be known for anything, it is that I made a difference by participating. I think those words mean a lot, and I hope we all can live by them. So this is a remembrance for David Julian. All right, so off we go to public comment. And we've got 3 folks signed up for here. The first person is Colossus Aaron.
East 13th Street, Port Angeles. I'm here to visit the plastics issue, but before I say the content of what I want to say, I have a question to ask. A year ago, I was in the same position. I asked a question and stated that the council rarely answers questions, and I heard some of you, not clearly, not definitely, but imply that this is not a dialogue. It is an opportunity for Port Angeles residents to give input, express themselves, and the council is here to listen. My response to that is it makes a sterile environment. So I hope in the 1 year you have had some change in how you feel about it, and I will get an answer to the question I would like to ask. And based on the answer you give, I will decide what I want to say, if anything at all. And excuse me, it's not a cold or flu, so don't get nervous. The subject of reduction of plastics use has had 2 words that have been commonly circulating around: ban and ordinance. Well, I went and Googled those words, and there's actually quite a latitude in that. It says, an authoritative degree or direction, a law set forth by a governmental authority, a prescribed usage, practice, or ceremony. It has been used since about the 14th century when kings made proclamations. And a number of words are synonyms: law, rule, regulation, precept, statute, canon, ban, and a principle governing an action or procedure. And some dictate obedience, some recommend obedience, some suggest obedience, some are obligatory, some are voluntary, some are temporary, some are forever. So I would like to know, what are we thinking about when we say we will have an ordinance? Because if some of these definitions are correct, and if it is required obedience, then that means some body of some sort, defined outfit, has to monitor the compliance. So what happens when somebody is non-compliant? Who decides what's non-compliant, and what is the consequence for non-compliance? The reason I'm asking these is because I think anytime anybody, whether has the authority or not, makes a rule, there's always some element in the group that's the subject of the rule that will oppose it. And in the case of something like plastic, as it was in the fluoride, there'll be a number of people who will say, the government has no business telling me where to put my groceries when I buy them. And they might come up with all kinds of explanations, even, oops.
Yes, sorry, your 3 minutes are up. Do you want to wind up? And
Well, I don't know, I
summarize?
guess maybe I'll have to come back.
Okay.
So anyhow, and the United Nations has put out a little list. But actually, plastic bags aren't the biggest offenders. They only live 10 to 20 years. Plastic bottles top the list. They have immortal life. So if we want to hit anybody, maybe we should go for plastic bottles. But I'm asking actually the council to go easy and slow on this. The idea is certainly the greatest. But we have to figure out a voluntary cooperation and a way to get people to get bags without trouble. Certainly, Safeway could offer a free bag for every $50 you spend. So I'm sorry.
Thank you,
I
Melissa.
was for the introduction. But thank you for listening.
So the next person is Glenn Wiggins.
Evening. My name is Glenn Wiggins, and I live on 702 Caroline Street in Port Angeles. And since I knew the DOT was going to be here to present their plans for building a bridge across the Elwha in the floodplain, which some of us think is a very good plan. Some of us believe that a very competitive and stable alternative route should be reviewed. This would be using the current 112 bridge, built on solid rock walls, by connecting 112 to 101, by primarily using an existing Department of Natural Resources road. It would make a left turn just after you cross the 112 bridge. As soon as you can, you'd want to head over towards this railroad grade, which was made into a DNR road. It's a very good road. And it runs about 2 miles. It's all constructed, very easy to walk, very easy to drive. It used to be an old railroad grade. Another short piece of construction would be required to where that railroad grade comes out into Indian Valley. You come out and makes a hard right turn and parallels the mountain along that side of the roadway. Be about a half a mile, maybe connection to the 101 by crossing Indian Creek. So anybody like a tour? I'm glad to take you out there and show you. You would be right with me on this subject after you had the visit. All of this was presented to the county commissioners, during which we requested a value engineering study, which has not been forthcoming. Given the facts, it's quite hard for me to understand that. Since the DOT was here last, the Elwha River began to rage and knocked out the Elwha campground and the roads that service it for the second time. And we understand that the roads there are going to be replaced at some cost, perhaps when funds are available, and will be rebuilt, but the campground will not be. Our question is this: why has there been no consideration of an unbiased value engineering study for this alternate route? People throughout this town and on the west end have been asking the same question. In retrospect, we are certain that if maintenance costs over the lifespans of this bridge are compared, you know which one would come out better. The alternate route would clearly be the best choice. And if you're considering earthquakes and the survivability of a river in the floodplain, be my guest. So I'll be glad to stay here as long as it's necessary to discuss this with you tonight. And I have information further for your further reading. Here, I'll pass you down. Please take a copy.
Thank you.
Sure.
And the next person to speak would be Rachel Lee.
Hi, Rachel Lee, 3124 South Peabody. And I'm here to talk about one of the panels that we're going to be having on March 3rd. It's called Clallam County Women in Politics. And it's Saturday, March 3rd at the library, the Port Angeles Library, in the Carver Room from 3 to 5 o'clock. And it's a panel discussion to raise awareness of the obstacles, struggles, and issues unique to female candidates in our region, and to begin a community discussion of how to better support women seeking elected offices. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of taste of some of the people that would be on the panel. So, thank you, Mayor Brooke, for being part of the panel and our moderator. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kate Dexter, for also being a part of the panel itself. Sandy Long, she's the Vice President of the Port Angeles School Board. Mary E. Bauer, which is of the Crescent Community Advisory. Clea Rome, she is on the North Olympic Library System Board and also on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And Liz Mueller, which is in the Jamestown Tribal Council. Mary Ellen Winborn, she's the Director and Community Development. Candace Pratt, she's SWIM City Council. And Patty Birch, she is on the Forks Hospital Board. We're working on getting a few more panelists to be a part of it, but we're hoping that we see you as well as the city to be there, and also some of our community members, because this is going to be a huge discussion and to help people learn about what it takes to be involved into elected positions as well as boards and committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak at this moment? So, do I sense that most folks here are for this bridge discussion? Most folks are here for that? So why don't we move directly to that, if that's okay with the council? Seems okay, guys? All right. So we will go directly to the update on the Alwa River Bridge.
Mayor Brook, members of the council, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to have a few minutes on your agenda to talk about the good and important work we're doing to get the Alwa River Bridge replaced. I'm going to keep my remarks fairly brief so there's an opportunity to have some questions. We're going to walk through kind of the history, and some of you may have seen some of these slides before, but I think it's important to have some sense of how we got to where we are today. And then talk a little bit about some of the monitoring we're doing out there with our maintenance staff and some of the fancy gizmos we've attached to the bridge. And then move right into, I think, what everybody wants to talk about, which is what does the light at the end of the tunnel look like when you're going to get this bridge replaced? And then obviously we'll have some time for questions. So, if I can work this mouse, we'll be off and running. All right, a little bridge history. The community's got a lot of life out of this bridge. It has served us well. It's approaching 90 years old. It's been, as you can see, some of the bullet points up on that slide, kind of giving you some highlights of how it's lived its life. Most notably, though, in 2012 and 2014, we did take out the dams. They created some scour in the river, and that scour. This is just an example photo from back in 2014. This is scour is when the sediments of the river aren't where they were before. So the influx of water basically moved that sediment downstream. And so this picture here on the left-hand side of the slide, that's sediment, trees, and then a month later, this is back in 2014, this is about an area of about 3.5 acres. So it just gives you a sense of how powerful water can be in moving materials around, which has kind of led us to this picture, which, let me explain what you're looking at here. These are the two piers or columns that support the existing bridge. And you're not really supposed to see all this stuff down here. This is, actually what you're seeing there is some of the old wood from the original caisson. Back when they built this bridge, the lower dam was in, and they sank caissons to de-water the area. So dig down as far as you can to get that foundation well-founded, take the water out and pour in what we call a seal, which is a whole bunch of concrete to keep the water out, and then put your bridge column right on top of that to found your bridge. And what we found when we started seeing the sediment go away from this pier, we lost anywhere, we figured up to about 14 feet of sediment was lost around these columns, or at least this column on the left. And we were concerned about it. And so we went out and did some geotechnical borings, and what we found is that the bridge is not founded on bedrock. And so that led us to take a cautious approach. And we've gone out, and we're just listing off some of the things we have out there. We have tilt meters that actually let us know in real time if the bridge moves. We have crack meters installed on the bridge, and I believe we go out and measure those quarterly. Just to literally, our bridge inspection crews go out and measure to see if we're seeing any movement in the bridge. We monitor the flow. We have some tattletales on the bridge out there to let us know what water levels are when we're seeing movement of the tilt meters. And our maintenance crews right here in Port Angeles, they visit the project weekly just to observe the bridge, and our bridge preservation office, who looks at all of our bridges statewide, looks at this bridge quarterly. And I should mention we do LiDAR, and this is what LiDAR, don't ask me what LiDAR stands for, but it's a fancy piece of equipment that goes out and shoots a million cloud points out there. What you're seeing here is the channel of the river. These are the columns of the bridge. It doesn't obviously show the superstructure or roadway deck of the bridge. And this little table right here is a nice image of all the rock we've placed around these columns to keep the bridge in a good state of repair until we can get out there and replace it. And this was actually the operation when we were replacing. We placed almost 5,000 tons of heavy riprap around these columns. And really, the purpose of that riprap is to keep what sediment is left there in place so that the bridge is stable. All right, so let's move on to what we really want to talk about. Where are we at in the design process? Where are we at with getting this bridge replaced? And I have a rapid fire things to talk about. I want to talk first about the things that are done and behind us. Our geotechnical borings and our geotechnical work is finished. We do have a final geotech report which is steering our bridge designers into a good place in terms of seismic design and making sure this bridge is founded correctly. It's likely going to be a drilled shaft construction. Our roadway alignment and roadway profiles, the horizontal and vertical alignment for the new roadway, and I have a graphic that shows what that plan looks like that we're certainly interested in any comments folks might have about that. Our preliminary bridge plan is finished. Our intersection plans, we do have an intersection with Olympic Hot Springs Road. It's going to preview tonight. I don't think anybody's seen it. It also shows a proposed access point for recreational access to the waterway. We'd certainly be interested where we're looking for public input on that, if there's any concerns with what we've come up with for a design. And our drainage design is nearing completion. We have to obviously treat all the water that comes off of the new impervious area for quality. We have some retaining walls to design. We have to obviously assemble contract plans for bidding, and that's coming along nicely. We have some overhead power out there that needs to be relocated. That's also coming along nicely. And we have to do excavating before we put a job out for bid. And obviously complete the bridge design. And the new intersection at Olympic Hot Springs Road will be illuminated so that it's a little safer than it is today. And so we're working on some illumination design. It's kind of barely halfway done. And our traffic control phasing and staging, how exactly we want to build this bridge is also early in the design process. Now to the challenging parts of the project. As with all of our transportation projects nowadays are challenging from a permitting, and there's always a certain amount of controversy that comes with transportation improvements. And so the NEPA process is we have federal funds in this project, and we have 2 items right now that are driving our construction start, and they're listed here. It's what we call the National Environmental Policy Act. And what's listed underneath there are all the discipline type reports, all the kind of specialty studies we have to do with any project, and it includes this project. So we're looking at the Endangered Species Act. I mean, we know we'll be having an adverse effect on bull trout and Chinook salmon. We think some of the other species will not be affected, but certainly we're going to be in the water with this bridge, so we're going to have some impacts there. We're also required to look at vegetation and parks and recreation and environmental justice and noise and visual qualities. A lot of the primary issues we're dealing with out here are the endangered species. We have some historical natural resources to look at. And parks and recreation, obviously, the new alignment, which you'll see on the next slide, is on the Olympic National Parks lands. So obviously there's a direct nexus to the parks and recreation piece. And then the real kicker here is our environmental process, this NEPA process, right now, we expect to be through this process by November of this year. And you can't go out and purchase your property rights until the NEPA process is complete. And the reason for that is we want to make sure the project is cleared by the Federal Highway Administration to go forward before we go out and purchase property for it, or purchase easements in this case. We do need an easement deed from Olympic National Parks to put the bridge on the new alignment we proposed. And that is up to a 6-month process. So if you do the math on that, we get done with NEPA in November, add on 6 months, we will be right there in time to begin our construction work in the summer of 2019. So let me move on. And of course, community engagement is an ongoing process for us at DOT. We do not want to design, display, and defend. We like to get out in the community and make sure we're doing the right thing to start with. All right, so there you have it. I don't know how well you can see that. That's not too bad. So last we were out here, I know we heard loud and clear that building a new bridge on a new alignment that flattened the curve and provided a better experience out there for motorists. We heard that, so we have, this is the design we're carrying forward. I have a detail on the next page. This is a tighter look at the Olympic Hot Springs intersection. As you can see here, this is the scheme we've come up with, and this is very tentative. This is we have not gone public with this yet, except for tonight, and we have some meetings tomorrow. We'll also be presenting this at. This is a concept at this point of how we provide recreational access. The bridge itself, up here we have a right turn to take Olympic Hot Springs, left turn to Pocket coming westbound. Illumination, bus stop at this location. The bridge itself, 2 12-foot lanes and 6-foot shoulders. So some non-motorized use will be available there on the bridge where it's kind of tight today for that sort of operations. So if you have any comments on this, we would love to hear it. So, but this is the plan we have today that we are advancing as rapidly as we can through the NEPA process. And so what does it look like? I kind of touched on a lot of this already, but we are at the point where we're trying to get through the bridge design and all that environmental work and acquiring our property rights. And next spring, it is our hopes to be advertising a construction contract to bid, to hire a contractor to begin construction. And we expect to be open to traffic by fall 2020. It's ideally a bridge like this could be built faster than that, but we have what we call fish windows to work in, where we have to work around that. So, the substructure 1 year and we'll finish up, get out of the water in the following years. But we're fairly confident this schedule will go well. That asterisk at the bottom is there just in case. The bridge it's functional, it's not load rated, we think it's safe. And the only thing that would change that is if if we lose that material that we've placed around the piers. And I have one other slide here, or 2 other slides. This is kind of a shopping list of all the ways you can get hold of us or get information about the project. We have great Clyde McClody and her team are here tonight. They do a great job with our community outreach. And her name's on the last slide. And so if we need to plug anybody in, by all means, let's jot her number down. And this is the last slide. I did want to point out we do have some other construction work coming up in those blue-colored boxes. We do have a fish passage job out on 112 in this area. And we have a paving job up on SR20. And believe it or not, continued work on the New Canal Bridge. I think that's kind of a standing item these days. And this project at Killisett Harbor is probably not going to go. It's having some NEPA challenges in its end. And with that, I hope I didn't take too much time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So any questions?
Right, well, thank you for your presentation. Our community depends on the bridge, so for so many things. And so everywhere a lot of places I go, there's been a lot of discussion, and we had some comments tonight, and there's been articles in the paper, and again, there's been a lot of community discussion regarding our new community bridge at the Ola. So has there been a value engineering study for an alternate route? Because what are you estimating the cost of this bridge? And I've just heard some estimates for an alternate route. Sounds like the long-term maintenance may be lower, the cost may be lower, and so these are issues that I know as a council
we look at alternates before we decide on a project. So can you just give us a little bit of an update on that?
Yeah, certainly. So we have looked at other alternatives. And, you know, on one hand, I'm amazed at what our engineers are capable of doing. I'm also equally amazed at how difficult it is to construct a brand new court in today's environment in terms of, you know, the alternatives, for example, off 112. That is a very expensive endeavor, much more expensive than the 29. I believe our estimate for this bridge is 27 or 29. I can't remember. I'm looking at Chris in the eye.
That includes all of the design and
Yeah, so for design all in, it's a $27 million job. We did look at other non-bridge alignments, and the cost is prohibitive. And frankly, I'm not convinced we would ever get through an environmental process to build a brand new highway in the timeframe we need to.
So if our citizens have estimates that perhaps may be lower than yours for an alternate bridge, should they contact Ms. Baker? I mean, you say you're interested in community input and public comment, and so I'm getting public comment. And so how is the best way for our community members to give you public comment?
Well, we'd be happy to take it directly. By all means, Claudia is a great person to follow that to. But we did estimate. I will just want to reiterate, we did do an estimate. I don't remember, I'll put Chris on the spot. Do you remember what you came up with, for your office came up with?
I think it was somewhere in the range of 40 to 45.
Yeah.
And I've heard estimates that are closer to 20, so that's a huge, discrepancy. So, okay, it's just important that community members have an opportunity for their input.
Absolutely, and we welcome that input, and I would recommend that, Claudia's email and address are up there. If mine were there, I would certainly welcome as well, but she can funnel it to where it needs to go.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I have a question. How long is this bridge expected to last? What's its life expectancy?
So all of our bridges are fundamentally designed for 75-year life. However, we tend to get much longer than that out of our bridges.
Yeah, I often wonder if we could build for even more. What would it cost, what would be the overall cost? When I went to Europe, there was a 2,000-year-old bridge built by the Romans, and it was still there. It wasn't going anywhere, and I just keep wondering, why can't we build that way?
Wrong question. we deal with concrete. Yeah.
And these are the knots.
It's not a quick question, and it may be something that I just follow up. But I am curious about, in building the bridge, how much consideration in your planning process has been given to the fact that we've clearly seen, which you showed with the sediment, but just in general that it's a dynamic river whose banks are changing, and I'm wondering how you, without getting into an engineering lesson, how that's being considered in the construction of the bridge.
That's an excellent question. And the High Cliff answer is we've done a river mechanics type study, a very in-depth hydraulic study that we model these things. Hydraulics engineers do, and they're really good at what they do. The bridge's ends are actually founded in bedrock, and we're going to have extremely deep and robust drilled shafts that will reach and socket into the bedrock. That design is not complete yet, but those are the kind of discussions we've had with our engineers. So it will be seismically stable and based on our modeling from the river mechanics, we don't see it being a scour potential.
You're building it to a 9.0 earthquake, right?
I'm sorry?
You're building it to what's the seismic standard, or how are you considering those issues now with bridge design?
Yeah, this is a fully seismic compliant LFRD design. Don't ask me what LFRD stands for. That's what our bridge speak is for. It's seismically, it'll handle the seismic code for this area of the country.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. So, council, what do you want to do? Do we want to move on to the benches? Because I think that's the other thing that we have fun and then folks can move on, or do we want to go to the benches? Okay, Corey? Or
Madam Mayor, if you want to have the senior center discussion, that would be set up, since we're not really, now that we're getting ready to be prepared here.
Okay, well, in that case, let's just go to the top then.
Okay.
So, whatever, yeah. So, the consent agenda, so, I'm sorry, great items. Anything else? Other items?
Not from staff.
Wonderful. Next, we have the consent agenda. So let me read the consent agenda and we can have some discussion. City council minutes for February 6, 2018. Oh, actually, I should ask first. Any items need to be pulled from this? Okay. The second expenditure report from January 27th through February 9th, 2018 for the amount of $1,792,241.60. The 15 kVA power module upgrade, the Olympic Peninsula Tourism Commission annual agreement, and the changes to the city council assignments.
I move to adopt the consent agenda as read.
Second. All right, so we have a motion to move the consent agenda as read and a second. Any discussion?
I just had a comment on the Olympic Peninsula Tourism Commission annual agreement that I hope we have a discussion about that commission in a larger context at some point. Because I think that there are opportunities that we're missing by not having communication and cooperation between a lot of these regional agencies, our LTAC, SWIM LTAC, and all these other things. And that, I think, would be a place where the Tourism Commission could have a bigger role.
For the lodging tax with that discussion, that might be a great place for you. Okay, any other discussion? All right, guys, so we've got a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor for passing the consent agenda as read?
Aye.
All those opposed? So it's unanimous to pass the consent agenda as read. Corey, are you ready for us?
We are.
All right, then we'll go to the bench.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. It's our pleasure tonight to present to you something that we call Project Pigeon. I'll explain that a little bit. Tonight, joining me is Dave Walter, he's the CEO of CRTC, and we're going to give the council an overview of the history of the project, since some of you are new to this, as well as kind of talking about moving forward. Now that we have the benches, what are we going to do with them? And then Dave's going to talk about the development of the bench, and then we'll do the unveiling. And before we do the unveiling, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. So in 2017, local artist and business owner Bob Stokes came to my office and he said, Corey, I just read an article about CRTC. What if we came up with an idea of developing a carbon fiber bench? And I said, that's a great idea, Bob. And he took it one step further and had a meeting with CRTC, and after a few meetings, we came up with the idea of Project Pigeon. Actually, CRTC came up with Project Pigeon. I just liked it so much I continue to use that phrase because they give a kind of a code word for all their projects that they're developing. So I liked it, and we're sticking with it. And Bob also has partnered in using his metal bench design and is also a consulting designer and artist with the company. And in 2017, we presented the idea to the City Council that we were going to develop new benches and that we were going to use $10,000 that was set aside years ago as part of the original memorial donation program. There was $20,000 left in that. We wanted to spend $10,000 of that revenue and kind of invest in this project. And part of that project was to come up with two types of benches. One bench was to kind of showcase our waterfront trail, and one was going to be a prototype to use in our parks. And the reason why we wanted to come up with a new bench was because we really wanted to get away from our memorial and donation program that started in the early 1990s. And it was a type of program that was really popular in the 90s to generate revenue for their parks departments. But the program is 26 years old, and as you can see from one of the benches down along the waterfront trail, the program was in dire need of some change. So one of the things moving forward that a lot of municipalities are doing is moving towards an adopted bench program. And we developed that over the course of the last 6 months, and the Parks and Recreation and Beautification Commission approved that in January, and we put a copy of that policy, the new policy, in the last council packet. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Since then, Dave and I have been on the KONP show, and really what we're trying to do, even as a city, is really help market this project, because we feel like we are partners in this, and that not only is this $10,000 an investment in our waterfront trail and benches, but it's really an investment in our community, and that's something that was really important to the city. So moving forward, one thing, we're not quite ready to start putting benches out on waterfront trail, but we are taking reservations as far as waiting lists. And we are developing a catalog to really showcase this. So in between that time, we are getting hold of the original donors of the memorial and waterfront donation policy that the folks really started the program. And one of the benches that we have today is actually going to be dedicated to the original donors of the program. And that's something that we wanted to give back to them as well. So with that, I am going to pass along to Dave Walter, CEO of CRTC.
Thanks, Corey. Privileged to be here with you tonight and also to represent the CRTC team. So thank you very much for the time. Project Pigeon, we're excited to be able to show this bench to you. The team has been working extremely hard. I'm very proud of them. They've put their heart and soul into making this possible. But the question is, why carbon fiber in a park bench? There's never been one out there. There's never been a recycled aerospace-grade carbon fiber bench, right? And so the advantages are actually pretty cool. When you look at it here, it's light. It's about 75 pounds. A typical steel bench might be 325 pounds plus. So it's much easier to handle, much lighter to ship, less transportation costs. Very strong. So 3 people can easily sit on this. 3 big football players can easily sit on this. It's going to hold a lot of weight, so no problem in terms of strength. But the big thing, I think, for us is that it's durable. It doesn't rot, insect-proof, and it handles marine environments. So you could sink this in salt water and it would still stay. So it's not a problem. It's going to hold up for a long, long, long time. And very easy to clean. So if there's graffiti on here, you can power wash it off, it comes right off, and it's not damaged in any way. So we think that the longevity and the life cycle costs for this are really, really good. Colors, really the gamut. You'll get a chance to see the color combinations that the city's picked out, but it's a nice advantage to be able to offer up to customers that they can pick a wide variety of colors. We'll show you the stops that are in there that kind of help prevent the skateboarders coming across, as well as people from wanting to sleep on the bench and such. But very durable, very scratch resistant. I can't tell you that it's scratch proof. If somebody really is determined, they can, but you can fix it too. It's repairable out in the field. And it has vandal-proof hardware, so it makes it very difficult to take apart. I think the other thing that's really cool here is everything's going to be made here in Port Angeles. We're not shipping this out for other jobs. I think as this gets scaled, I easily see us probably bringing on 10 people to be making the benches. We think it has that kind of business opportunity, so we're pretty excited about it. You can see this is our little map of our corner of the world here in Port Angeles, and so the CRTC on the far back right-hand side on the Composites campus. But we also think this is a good way to be able to utilize the grads from Peninsula College, from the Advanced Manufacturing Program. So they're already scaling up and training up a future workforce for us, so we're pretty excited about that. And Corey has reminded me that, this is just the beginning. There could be other opportunities for a trash can, for a picnic table, lots of things that we could make out of carbon fiber for the parks and recreation industry. So we see a good opportunity in the space as a whole. And certainly want to shout out to Bob and to Corey and to his team. This has really been a great project in terms of collaboration. They've been over to our place regularly. We've been showing them updates. They've given us feedback. We've taken that feedback. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for all of their support. So I really have enjoyed the collaboration with them. I think we came out with a good-looking product. I hope you like it because, like I said, we put our heart and soul into this. In terms of the MSRP, the bench is going to MSRP for $4,500. So again, that's manufacturer's suggested retail price. The cost to the city of PA is $2,450. I had promised you the last time that I was here that we would get most favored nation pricing to the city for your collaboration, and we've definitely stayed on that and stayed true to it.
Sir, any questions?
Just a brief question from a marketing standpoint. I hope we're not your only customer.
No, sir.
Seriously, have you, yeah, I can see a lot of uses right now. Have you put together a marketing plan to do this maybe across the country? I can see a vast market potential for this, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are on marketing this outside of Port Angeles.
Yes, thank you. Great question, and most definitely see the opportunity outside of Port Angeles, but our number one priority is to build the benches for the city. We want to get scaled up and get that done and get that well underway. Corey and I have already talked about the initial orders and such, but we've been already getting phone calls. I mean, we haven't even advertised yet, we're getting calls. So I'm confident in the ability to be able to take this elsewhere. There's, as Corey mentioned, there's other communities that are doing adopted bench programs, and they're very interested in having a bench like this because of the longevity involved. And you'll see some of the customization that we have that's pretty unique in terms of the plaque. That's something no other bench has, and so I think that's going to be a powerful motivator for people as well.
Thank you.
And Councilman Moran, one of the good things about redoing our policy was reaching out to other municipalities and cities to see what they were doing. And it was interesting to find out that a lot of them were in the same boat we had, but we were actually moving forward with a new program where a lot of people were just stagnant and saying, we don't know what we're going to do yet, but we're interested. So it gave me the opportunity to market ourselves as well as far as our new bench. I've talked to Victoria, Walla Walla, Vancouver, so we'll definitely be reaching out once we unveil tonight, and we'll also be reaching out to some of our National Parks and Recreation Associations and Washington Parks and Recreation Associations to get the word out and also do some demos.
Councilmember King?
All right, this is exciting, right here in Port Angeles. The new economy is we're witnessing the birth of a new economy. I really think so. I think this has potential to meet the needs of every town, every city, every park and recreation department across our country and internationally. So I'm really proud of this dynamic duo here for coming up with this concept and making it a reality. I think we have something great here.
It's a trio.
Well, Bob Stokes is our resident artist, and we're so proud of him. Our family has a bench that he has he's designed, and we're just thrilled with it. But this is exciting, and kudos. But what I would really want to require as a council is reports from time to time and how your sales are going and where they're going, because people will want to come to Port Angeles to see our benches and to see the facility. So I think it's be bringing people in for lots of reasons.
David did make a good point, is that the ideas are endless in the parks and recreation industry because we waste so much taxpayer dollars on vandalism, things getting broken, and we're constantly replacing them. So every time I see something, I'm like, can we make that out of carbon fiber? And the first things that come to my mind are partitions, and garbage can lids, and those types of things that we spend a lot of money on every year.
I think this is just a really good example that collaboration is better than competition. We have all these different groups coming together. Port Angeles being, involved, a lot of people involved in CRTC success. So this is really great to see local artists, business, and local municipal governments coming together, working together to get this product. It's going to hopefully work out great. So thank you.
Anything else here? Well, I want to thank you as well, and very excited to see all the different products. I use your pickleball paddle all the time, and so I really appreciate that. And so it will be interesting to get reports to show the community all the different products you're going to have. So thank you so much for this. And yeah, we're ready for the unveil.
All right, you guys ready?
You get to see.
We'll also take a break right after this, so people in the audience can come check it out.
Turn them around and turn them back.
We want every bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drum roll.
So David, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure, yeah. So you can see here, this is a center plaque, and we'll turn it around for you folks here in just a sec. But this is Project Pigeon, bench made with recycled carbon fiber, and then it's got the insignia for the CRTC, City of Bob, and the city, and then presented to the City of Port Angeles 2018. And then we've all signed down at the bottom, and the little plaque says CRTC first article, February 2018. So this is the one that's going to go into the City Hall, just as a commemorative. I'm very proud to be able to present this to the city here this evening.
Time to turn them around.
Indeed.
Show the world.
Well, can you get a picture of Bob and Corey and Dave on the bench? With your camera available?
Bob, go.
Come on up, Bob.
Join them, Bob, please.
Make sure it's a good picture this time.
So one of the features I like the most, is I don't know if you guys can see, when you come around to the sides here, you can see the city emblem.
Yeah, I love the city emblem, yeah.
And on the inside, it has the CRTC.
Yeah, that's great.
Want to see the Jets?
Yes, so, yeah, please feel free to, all three of you guys together, that would be a wonderful.
Bob, come on in.
I think you gotta sit on the bench.
You gotta sit on the bench. Yeah, I'll just comment here that Corey mentioned, there's a city insignia on the outside of the legs, and then the CRTC insignia to the inside. And then this is a vitrified ceramic, so it's UV, very UV stable. Nobody else has that in the world. You can't get that kind of a plaque and set in a bench. It's just not available. So we think it's going to be really unique. Guy Hauser, who's our director of engineering, really did a great job of kind of taking what Bob had envisioned and turning it into reality. So, and the team did a super job. I mean, this was a lot of work to pull this together. So I'm super, super proud of them.
Show us your confidence, sit on it.
They don't say that word, there's no problem
This
there.
bench here will be, we put along the water.
Happy to do so.
And this color here is going to be our regular.
Feels pretty comfortable.
The question?
Sure.
I can tell it's gonna be successful, but I'm wondering if in 15 or 20 years, instead of calling it the Port Angeles Pigeon Bench, what if you call it the 2,000-year bench?
Yeah, we'll have a brand that does go with it. Kitchen was just the name of the project.
So folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break here, so you're all welcome to come and sit at the bench and test it out. So we will be back here at 7:20.
Yeah, I'm over.
Congratulations, that's
Item first and third act,
You know what, the articles failed, they've been grown thicker. I'm on it, but. Yeah, they're fired and so what can you do? Well, one thing is just so much that it placed itself together.
That was
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And then I'm a vigil. You can have opinions on that. Railroads on that. Off the railroad. Go to Ellensburg, that is a road that they have to cross like this. Railroad, that thing is just extravagant.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Public works guy there, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's so mad.
I'm like, I don't know if
You know, and so, but the other part is that work is the one that's important. A lot of this work is going to they get a beautiful industrial building that's like set up for 21st century manufacturing. Well, from our perspective, they're trying, that's where they went. Oh, cities those guys are supposed to manage in that era. Global financial crisis happened. What are you going to do to fix our economy, Bill Greenwood? You know, I think it's kind of a losing.
Yeah, I'm a gentleman in Moscow. Great, great business people, but one of them this was back in the 20s and 30s. So it was
The stuff that Corey's talking about, boring stuff. It's making it boring stuff. That's the thing that's why they're so mad. But they don't want to waste money. They just replace stuff and break it. Something that's basically you can restore our and show that hey, we're not doing such a bad job with something. We want we don't but you know, I so I like that they're focusing so much on we don't want a million orders and get filled. So I like that they're I do think they would do that's like I was going to ask almost the same exact question. Thanks. Thank you all.
Good job, Bob.
9, which is ordinance updating financial policies for purchasing and bidding. Who's going to take that one?
That will be me. We are reviewing the financial policies to make sure we're inclusive of all the things that are necessary to ensure that we're managing money and spending it correctly and following all the rules. And going through the policies, we found that the purchasing policy, which we're following, and is currently in place in our financial policies, is actually something that we determined should be put into an ordinance, so that anyone can look up in our ordinances and see our actual regulations for bidding and making a purchase and follow the rules without having to be instructed every time we put something out to bid. So what we've done is we've taken these out of our policy, which it was passed by resolution through the council in 2014, and moved it into an ordinance to give it more visibility to the public. So what we're asking is that you conduct a first reading of the ordinance to establish and incorporate a new chapter for purchasing policies and procedures, and then continue the hearing to March 6th. Thank you.
And is there any questions or, council? No questions coming? I got one. It says in here that the changes address the fireman's pension fund. And when I read that, I just couldn't see how or where.
We, when we were going through the review of the policies, and we're going to bring the other changes forward on March 6th, but since those will be passed through resolution as opposed to ordinance, we will adopt them all at the same time. So there were fireman's pension, there were some investment policies. There were also grant items that we needed to put into a policy for our Washington State auditors. The last couple of years, we've had the policies, but they're in such various locations that HR documents, financial policies, and some informal policies that we have, that we wanted to put them all into one place so that we could just hand them over. So in the process of doing that is where we discovered that we wanted to put these into an ordinance.
But just to follow up on that a little bit, as Tess said, the financial department has determined they want to add some new financial policies to what exists already. And that's good. It should be, the financial policy should be kept up to date. In the process of doing that, the legal department has been engaged with a 2-year-long effort with Public Works and CDC and some of the other departments to update and streamline our purchasing and bidding policies. So we thought, since the finance department wanted to bring forward a new version of the finance policies, we thought this was an ideal opportunity to take those bidding and purchasing policies out of the finance area and put them into ordinance, because they are related to statutes to govern purchasing and bidding on a statewide basis. And so this will make more sense to you next time, because you will have the financial policies before you, and they will they'll make more sense out of why we have this ordinance doing one thing, the financial policies doing something else.
No questions?
Yeah. Just out of pure ignorance, what's a small works roster? Not quite, after reading it, I kind of have an idea, but is it the size of the organization, or what constitutes a small work roster? I mean, is it a small list, or is it the size of the organization?
It's the size.
I'm sorry, I just.
It's the size of the contract.
Size, okay.
So that originally the state bidding policy required a process for all contracts above a certain low amount. Right now that is $45,000 or $60,000 in some instances. And the state realized that that wasn't always sufficient because in some small projects, well, nowadays, almost all small projects are above those numbers.
Okay.
And so basically instituted a simplified bidding procedure for most projects that are below $300,000. And that number changes from time to time.
Yeah, okay.
That's all it is.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, let me read the ordinance. The ordinance of the City of Port Angeles, Washington, creating a new chapter 3.05, purchasing policies and procedures of the Port Angeles Municipal Code, providing procedure to be followed in approving purchase orders and signing checks.
I move to adopt as read.
I think we have to move it to,
Continue, I'm sorry, we're going to continue March 6th. So I would withdraw my motion.
so that is the first reading, and we shall continue this to the March 6th meeting. Yeah, 22. Okay. All right, so let's move on. The next thing in our agenda, we have I2, which is the additions, alternatives to council attendance at the farmer's market. So I had asked the staff to bring this forward because we had talked about sometimes the farmer's market in the middle of winter is just really a dismal showing, and we all freeze, and it just doesn't seem to be very productive. So I know, speaking with a couple of council members, the senior center. So the senior center's hours of operations are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and you have to be a member. To be a member is 55 and up. So, and then you can be an associate member, 45 to 55. So that I didn't realize, but I think that would be a good venue, and was brought up. The other potential venue could be the library, which is Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8 p.m., and Fridays is 10 to 6, and Saturdays 10 to 5. So that could be another potential venue for the council. We've got the high school, and then I know what some other folks have done is potentially go to different restaurants. And some people said McDonald's or Fairmont or places where the locals go, where you can, usually have a crowd of folks that, if they feel like coming to talk to council. So I'm bringing that up for discussion for you guys to think about what strikes you as a good place where you would want to go meet folks.
I had proposed that using the Port Angeles Senior and the Community Center as a venue. I would like to request that a room be made available to for myself, but any council member that would be willing to, as long as we're three of us, I guess, participate. And what I would like to do in this venue is just kind of have, the old coffee with a councilman type of situation where on days of council meetings, in other words, the first and third Tuesday of the month, a room would be available in the community center for citizens to come and visit the council member, learn about what's going to be on the agenda that night, ask questions, give their input. Not everybody has the opportunity in the public comment session to say what's on their mind. So in a more relaxed, comfortable, all-season atmosphere. And so talking to the executive director of the senior center, she directed me to get permission from the city manager and the Parks and Rec director to reserve one of these rooms. And I would request that one of the rooms be reserved for us as council members on the first and third Tuesday of every month. So my proposal would be from about 10 to 11:30 in the morning to have citizens available or be available for citizens to talk to. So again, the executive director said that I would need permission from the city staff. Thank you.
So that sounds like a good idea. Anybody else want to pitch in?
Well, first of all, the Senior Community Center, we don't have, I'm a member, but we don't have to be a member to attend. I'm currently planning a Seroptimus convention there in the week, and so it's used for many, many meetings and many events, and you don't have to be a member to enter. So if we were there on Tuesday mornings, the public could certainly come and be expected without having to participate in membership. And I think there's lots of parking there, so I think that sounds like a good alternative. Now, just going back to the origin of the farmer's market, it's something, Dan DiGiulio was in Florida, and he went to a farmer's market, and I don't believe it was in the winter, and I don't believe it was having, the freezing weather. So it was he brought it back, and it was a good idea, but the winters are a little too harsh, I think, for that. And but I think the senior center would be an excellent venue. And you know what? We can give it a try and review it on, in 6 months or whatever.
I just want to let you know what he thinks we're speaking ill of the farmer's market. We are blessed to have a year-round farmer's market, regardless of the weather. It was very cold. I had some good conversations, but I think senior center is a great idea.
I was just gonna say, I like the idea of not necessarily, if people are interested, not necessarily limiting it to that in lieu of the farmer's market. If we stop doing the farmer's market, I think that particularly in winter, I don't have any burning desire to sit out there in a windy like today. I really like the idea of the high school, and I wonder if we could do something quarterly at lunch or something, just to be there and have kids be able to walk by. Lunch seems like a reasonable time because it's not disrupting any class time. People who work, if any of us have work commitments, we can potentially come on a lunch break. The lunch is probably a little earlier, but anyway. I like the idea of adding that in. I like the senior center idea, and then I like the idea of maybe adding some other things in addition to that.
To me, the spirit of this is that it's the opportunity for somebody to walk by and say, oh, look, there's my representative. I've been meaning this question, but I haven't had time to shoot off an email or make a phone call, but I can ask it now. And so the places where people have that opportunity, I like the senior center idea, and I'd be interested in exploring that, but just for the purpose of brainstorming, I also do like grocery stores as another option. And I had a good time at the farmer's market in January. I wore a lot of clothes. And I look forward to the summer shifts at the farmer's market that I've been assigned to. So I don't want to do instead, but I'd be happy with adding the senior center as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my proposal was not in lieu of the farmer's market, it was in conjunction with it. And if my experience in high school, nobody come sit with me anyway, so that would be, I'd have to excuse myself from that.
Well, I think I agree with Lindsay, a grocery store or something. There are folks in this community that work for a living. They're not available from 10 to 11:30, or they're not available during their lunchtime. Farmers market, not a lot of response there, considering the number of people that inhabit our city. I do like the high school because I think young people should be involved more than they are. Something else on a weekend or an evening, a grocery store, but I'm not sure about that type of venue for us to be in. I guess that might be a question for Bill Bloor, but I'm not sure about sitting at the Safeway store. But some type of venue, or even at the library, in an evening venue that folks could go to once a month, because a lot of folks have busy lives. I'm never going to make one of those daytimes. It's not going to happen. And a weekend or an evening at the library can happen.
So how about then if we look at limiting the farmer's market maybe April to October? And then that way that can still happen. The senior center, whether it's first or third Tuesday, maybe just once a month, we can try that. from 10 to 11:30. I think the library the evening, maybe a Thursday night, so that's a little bit different. Thursday night from, I don't know, it could be maybe 6 to 8, or 7:30, something like that. The high school, you can do it quarterly, I think that would be great. And I think you're right about it being a little problematic for the grocery store, but it kind of makes sense, so I'm not sure how we can work that. Maybe we can think, if we can start looking at a calendar for those venues, and then if we look at maybe the McDonald's, or like I said, a restaurant versus a grocery store, for future discussion. How does that sound?
Good.
Not a lot of it.
We will,
Maybe we can talk after the meeting closes, or we can get right back.
Okay, or do you, I can just quickly clarify that we will.
Well, I'm just going to make a recommendation. Since this is a discussion, I think we're capturing the essence of the discussion. What we can do is put together something that seems to make sense from a scheduling perspective and meeting the goals, and then we can send it out and look for comment back from the council members. Again, since it's a discussion item, you're not, unless you vote and say this is what you're going to do, we'll do. But I think we can do that, make it really efficient, make sure that it makes sense, and it really is what you all intended.
As a just procedural question, should one of us or maybe Jennifer call the high school and ask if it's okay for us to do that?
When I was thinking all of the venues, we can contact to make sure that it works too, based on what the council's intent was.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds great. Any last comments on that one?
But we could make sure that we have your intent before we stop. Jennifer's smiling or glaring at me, I'm not sure. So we just want to make sure we have it right.
When you mentioned the high school, the other thing that came to my mind was Benson College.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
So, and that can also be lunchtime, or if they have, yeah, that could be another. So the intent so far was farmers market, give or take April to October. Then senior center, first or third Tuesday, maybe once a month, from 10 to 11:30. The library in the evening, maybe a Thursday night from 6 to 8. The high school lunch quarterly, and then maybe at the college maybe lunch quarterly.
Grocery stores, or we?
I think the grocery stores and the restaurants will lead for a different discussion, because it'd be harder to find, you know, we'll work on it.
And the only other item I can think is we may want to decide, you know, are you hoping to have 3 council members, 1 count, is 1 enough?
I think maybe 1 might be enough, but, yeah.
1 or 2.
We have limited capacity. And this is kind of the spontaneous constituent contact as opposed to the intended constituent contact, which, you know, I know we often get, you know, an email forwarded from Jennifer because it comes to the entire council email, and then all of us are responding separately. So, I mean, we're already dealing with people who've intentionally reached out to them, and I want to prioritize those people in my time.
I just want to point out that I'd like to have a buddy.
I'll make sure you get a buddy.
I almost would love to do it with someone, but I understand that we have competing schedules and time. That's right.
I like buddies too.
All right, is that enough direction? Wonderful.
Thank you.
Sure. So the next thing we have is J1. It's the Mitchell property term sheet. And so, as you all know, I work for the Lower Elwha Column Tribe, so I will not be leading this discussion. I will recuse myself, and I will hand over the gavel.
So who's going to take this?
I will go ahead and take this, and then I have staff here that can help answer any questions the council may have. So it's hard to believe that this process actually started about a year ago. I'm going to start with a little bit of background because some of it preceded the new council, and while some of this has been going on during the previous council. But having said that, it also has a chance to be real beneficial to the community. So in March of last year, the city advertised a notice of intent to sell the surplus property that we own located at the 100 block of East First Street. It's the property that's commonly referred as the Mitchell property, who was the prior owner, but it's the property that currently houses Budget Rent-A-Car. The criteria used in evaluating the submissions were the price, the impact of a proposed project, or what somebody would be moving in with, was the impact on the downtown, the ability of the proposer or new owner to perform, and parking availability, which has been a concern at the downtown. The tribe, the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe, submitted a proposal what was determined to best meet the criteria of those proposals that were submitted. In other words, it was the best proposal that met the criteria. During the tribe's due diligence with the property, contamination was noted on the property that would require considerable mitigation at a considerable or significant cost. In the terms presented to the council tonight, the pricing structure takes into account the fair market value of the property as well as the estimated cost of cleanup. There are other considerations in the term sheet, and I'll just name a few, and you have the term sheet in your packet, but an environmental condition or environmental conditions provision that assigns to the city all claims against the former polluters of the property so we can go after recovering those costs, and a provision that requires an agreement for payment in lieu of taxes if and when necessary, another question that comes up quite often. So tonight, council will be directing staff to use the terms and conditions before you. If you approve those, in putting together a purchase and sale agreement, to incorporate those into a purchase and sale agreement. And that purchase and sale agreement then would be brought forward to the council, brought back to the council, and the tribe for final approval by each respective council. And what we're proposing, we have a tentative date set aside for March 26 for a joint meeting. Again, if you approve the terms and conditions, and we have a purchase and sale agreement that had been negotiated, we will then bring that back at March 26 before both councils during a joint meeting for final approval. And we have staff that can answer any questions that you may have, and we'll open it up for discussion and questions.
Thank you, and thank you for stating the recommendation. I forgot to do that before I sent it off to you to give us the background. Are there any questions for staff or discussion from council?
I want to make sure I'm clear on this because I'm not sure I completely am. Once we approve this, you then come to an agreement for a purchase and sales agreement. And then we as a council get to go over that purchase and sales agreement prior to submitting it or signing it with the tribe?
Correct. What you would be approving tonight are terms and conditions that we would use in working with the tribe to put together a purchase and sale agreement. But final approval for that purchase and sale agreement would come back both to the council, the city council, and the tribal council for final approval.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Do you have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the term sheet and authorize the city manager to negotiate a purchase and sales agreement consistent with the terms in the proposed sheet.
Second?
Any further discussion? All right, then I will call for the question. All those in favor of approving the recommendation, the motion as stated by Councilmember Moran, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
I would like to note we also have Michael Peters in the back of the audience here, and he has been working really hard with the city on this. I know he's been working on this project quite a bit.
Thanks for coming.
We are on to J2, annual authorization for software and hardware maintenance renewals. Let's take this one.
I'll be taking that in. Every year for the last couple of years, we put forward the annual maintenance and support costs for IT at one time, detailed out by module and the costs that we anticipate. There was approximately a 4% increase on most of our IT this year, so as compared to last year, we have some new modules, but we also had built in a 4% increase in costs. We're asking for approval for all the items in the IT fund under maintenance and operations. This includes also the ability to contact some consultants as needed for some of our specific operating software where we're not able to repair it ourselves. In addition to their operations and maintenance and support that they normally provide, occasionally there are some things that fall outside of that, but all of these have been approved in the 2018 budget. So we're just asking that you formalize this so the city manager can approve as the costs come up and can pay them appropriately.
All right, council, any discussion on this? Okay, so I've got one. I know I've said this probably every single time that it comes up, but there are places that do not pay some of the software licenses over and over again. Some cities in Germany, the open office issues. And I do know it has to do with some of the security, but I would like us to at least have an IT plan in the long term that starts really looking at some of the open source software out there so that we are not paying all these costs year after year after year. So
just a couple, and thank you for those comments. Prior to a couple years ago, as Tess said, we didn't bring this all to council at one time, and staff felt that council would want to see it collectively because most of it falls under the radar. It just gets passed with the budget. You do approve it with the budget, but when you see it all together, it's a little bit different than when you see just a few things that would go forward to council. And in fact, staff took a really good hard look at it. This is the first time we saw it all together also. And it allowed us to look at those things and actually eliminate a few of them after reviewing them. But to more directly answer your question, we will be bringing forward later this year some changes regarding how we approach IT in general. And I think with that, you're going to find out that some of the things that you're asking now, or at least you're commenting on, will be addressed, but also some larger picture items will be addressed too that will cover those IT issues. And it's a major part of what we do. We rely on that information technology every day, but I have to say it's one of the few things that I completely, as many of us do, rely on somebody else. And we're bringing some people together that I think are going to put a structure together that will help us as we go forward. Will help staff, will help the council, and more importantly, help us as a city going forward with the IT issues.
thank you, Ben. All right, council, so where are we going with this? So I guess I need a recommendation.
I move that the council authorizes the city manager to approve the necessary annual agreements and purchase renewals for hardware and or software subscriptions and support services for information technologies for its year 2 budgeted line item. At total cost not to exceed the $631,300 budget.
Second.
All right, right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second to go ahead and approve the necessary agreements. Any discussion?
I just wanted to say, looking through this list, it's amazing to see the variety of different software services the city uses, which is, I think, an illustration of the myriad of things that we do, from running the 911 center to the utility systems to all of that. And so it's pretty amazing to see the software that's used. And I agree with Mayor Brooke about open source software. And in theory, open source software provides better security because everyone knows how it works. Everyone who knows how to read IT code and all that. And in the big picture, you know, we're in a privileged position here, you know, in the United States, able to throw down $631,000 for software licenses. But, you know, not every city in the world is able to do that and be able to do the things that they need to do. And so if we could move more toward our IT people being able to use open source software and being able to contribute back to that, that has this broader benefit where we can contribute to kind of, you know, a public commons that would benefit people throughout the world as well as our own city. So it's something that I'd like to support that direction in how we go. That said, looking through this list, I don't even know where to start with that, and that's something for the IT people to do. And you know, I use LibreOffice on my computer instead of Microsoft Office, and I don't pay Microsoft's license, and that's great. But I don't even know if there's options for a lot of this stuff to run a call center. And it is important for those systems to be on and not to fail. And I'm not saying that open source software fails more, but it does not get the same support in a lot of ways depending on how we do it. So I appreciate hearing that there's a move among the city's executive department to work in that direction and maybe think about how our IT works as an entire system. So thank you for that.
Any other comments? All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the agreements not to exceed $631,300. All those, I guess we'll go for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So it's passed unanimously. Next item on the list, the Tumwater Bridge rehabilitation. So who's taking it, Craig?
Thank you, I'll take that. So what we're bringing forward today is the approval of a contract to repair the Tumwater Bridge. We brought this, or we put out an RFP last summer. We had one bidder, it far exceeded the government engineer's estimate, so we canceled that bid. And we're going to rebid it later in the year when the construction window was a little more lax and contractors had more time to look at the project and bid on it. So we went out this winter with an RFP. We did get a bridge contractor bidding on it instead of paving, the one paving contractor. We did get bids, one bid that was within the government estimate. We are looking to do the base bid, which is the repair of the bridge itself, and bid item number one, which is the upgrading of the approaches to the bridge, which if you've ever driven on Tumwater Bridge or ridden a bike down Tumwater Bridge, you hold on tight. It's one of those projects we must get done because just as with roads and asphalt, what you want to avoid is water penetration. Once water penetrates into the bridge, gets to the metal, the rebar, and it deteriorates rapidly. So we need to get this done to replace expansion joints that are failing, seal the decking, and then re-asphalt it. So I'll take any questions you might have.
Council, any questions? All right, well, I know that numbers were so drastically different from last year. And was that only the bid window that did that?
Well, we made sure that we push it out as far as possible with We use Daily Journal of Commerce and the Peninsula Daily News and the MRC roster, and we actually called up firms that did bridge work to make sure they were aware of the project. The last time we did it, we got the one paving contractor bidding on it with a bridge company as a subcontractor. We wanted to reverse. We wanted a bridge contractor with a paving contractor as a subcontractor, and that's what we have now.
That's just pretty amazing, as the difference in the numbers, so thank you. I'm glad you guys are here. All right, council, I need a motion.
I move to approve and authorize the city manager to award the base and additive bid and sign a construction contract with Combined Construction Incorporated in Montevideo, Washington for the Marshall Bridge Rehabilitation Project, TR-0216, for the total bid amount of $185,996, including applicable taxes, and make minor modifications to the contract as necessary.
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So it passes unanimously. We pass TR-0216 for the amount of $185,996.
And Mr. Fulton, when it's completed, I'd love to be invited to walk the bridge.
Okay, next item is council reports. So we can start with Councilmember Kidd.
No report this evening?
Councilmember Moran?
A report.
Sorry. Go ahead, Kate.
I had the pleasure of, both as a citizen and a board member, going to the Fish on the Fence fundraiser for Faro Marine Life Center, which was a fun event. I think they raised a reasonable amount of money, and we were there as well. It was nice to see so many people come out and support an organization like that. And it was a nice evening. And that's all I have, I think.
All right, Kinsey.
So I just want to share, last Friday I went to the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization's Executive Board meeting down in Shelton. And so what this is an organization that's composed of Kitsap County, Mason County, Clallam County, and Jefferson County, planning and planning officials on the technical advisory committee that Nathan and another city staff member sit on, and then elected officials on the executive board. And it looks at regional transportation planning issues, things like, demand on roads, things like regional trails, kind of just the whole assortment. It's coordinated by the Washington State Department of Transportation. It's one of those things I didn't know existed before we're assigned to it as city council members. But I think one of those things that it's important for people to know about as kind of this multi-county collaborative planning process that is happening kind of slowly in the background for the North Olympic Peninsula and Kitsap County and Mason County, but isn't really something that we ever hear of. So I just want to share that and put that out in the public.
Councilmember French.
Just a couple small things. Number one is the Portage School District is showcasing its nominees or its selections for its new superintendent. We missed, obviously, tonight's because it happened at the same time as our meeting. But tomorrow night, if anybody wants to go to the Lincoln Center, I believe they start at 5 p.m. They have a 1-hour session with 2 of their 4 candidates. So you can go and meet one of potentially your future school board, school district executive. And the next is I'll be on vacation for about a week, but I'll be back right before our next meeting. So I hope you have time to be prepared.
Councilmember Moran.
I had the honor, privilege, if you will, of working at the Port Angeles Visitor Center yesterday. My wife works there every Monday afternoon. We call it the duty. But the thing I want to plug about the Visitor Center is if you haven't had the opportunity to visit the Visitor Center, I would really encourage you to do so. The wealth of information about our community and our region in that center is amazing. such things as local services, health services, restaurants, lodgings and resorts, activities, things of interest, and maps about the Olympic Peninsula. Also, we provide, the Visitor Center provides maps of Victoria, ferry schedules, and yesterday I had the opportunity to meet some delightful couples from the Netherlands. So it's really a fascinating tour. I would encourage anybody who has a little bit extra time, I know we're involved in things, but just out there in the community, if you have a little bit extra time and you'd like to tell people where to go, I would encourage you to volunteer or at least visit the Port Angeles Visitor Center. It's really a resource that we have in our community that benefits us all.
Wonderful. And I just have a little report. So we had a pickleball tournament. We had folks from all over the place. We had people from Alaska, we had people from Seattle, and they were some really good players. No one didn't win anything. But we're going to hopefully do this year and year again, and it was just a really good venue. We're going to see if we can try to get some dividers for the courts, and so we might be asking the lodging tax for some help on that, especially because we are bringing folks from all over the place. And then
And not in July.
And not in July, that's right. And tomorrow I'll be at Olympia for the Mayor's Exchange. So information, city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I go into information, I've got a couple action items that came out of tonight's meeting. By email, we will contact the council members with those alternative venues that were discussed tonight, where you can meet with community members, and so we will also contact the venues to make sure that they would be available during the council's times and dates you indicated. We also will be moving forward negotiating a purchase and sales agreement with the Lower Elwha Tribe for the initial property based on the terms and conditions. We have in your packet, we have a reappointment of a planning commission member. If you have any questions about that, you can either contact myself or Nathan. But what I would like to just go over with the council for 1 minute, I had the opportunity to go watch my grandson play basketball the other day. He was in a basketball tournament here in Port Angeles. And the reason I bring this up is because somebody came up to me and indicated that there were 71 teams that participated in this tournament. It was crazy busy. There were 71 teams that participated in this tournament, most of them from which were out of town. And about 10 years ago, I think we had 70 teams that participated. That was our record, and we broke it this weekend. But I thought I would have Director Delicott just give you a little bit on that. I asked him to, because the economic impact for that tournament and the positive impact on our motels and our restaurants, it was pretty incredible too. But Corey, if you would give them a quick update.
Sure. So we've been hosting 7 to 8 basketball tournaments every winter for many years now. And that is one of the requests that we ask every year for the Lodging Tax Committee, that we receive around, between basketball and baseball tournaments, around $70,000. And it's a great investment into the community. Like City Manager Keene said, 71 teams was a record for us, and that's just amazing over a 2-day period. The economic impact into the community, we get told all the time that without these tournaments in the wintertime, their businesses couldn't survive. And we've checked it out every year, and every year it's about a little over $1 million that we bring into the community with those 8 tournaments. So it's something that all the tournaments will continue to grow. Our next one is already at 55 teams, which is a record for that tournament. So although we keep asking for the same amount of money for lodging tax, we asked for a little bit more last year. We got denied, but we have to ask a little bit more because we are bringing in more people in town. That was something that we'll be plugging next event grant season. So.
And I would just say, as I was working in the restaurant all weekend, and I was vaguely aware that there was something going on.
How was the officiating?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you got denied, but everybody asked for more money this year.
But I will say it is tough to get referees here. Councilman Moran mentioned referees, but when you bring in that many teams and there's very few local officials, you have to bring a lot of people from out of town, so not everybody's gonna be happy, let's put it that way.
So just point of information, just to clarify, you said $70,000 spent to kind of help to market that or make that happen from the lodging tax, and that resulted in $1 million coming into the community?
Correct.
I think that's valuable to have the data of what actually works.
Yep, I would be more than happy to give council a spreadsheet that I keep track of every year, and I can pass that along to you.
Yeah, that would be really wonderful. I know that we're going to try to grow this pickleball tournament, because I know that people come from Arizona, they come from all over the place for the show. And I know we just started with 22 teams, so we will work on way up to 70.
And that economic impact of doing things in the off-season just really has to be highlighted. That is such a big deal for businesses all over Point Angeles.
All right, we are now at the second public comment period, so if you would like to speak to council again about anything, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And anybody who would like to speak to them, go ahead.
My name is Laurel Hargis, 3755 Canyon Circle. And I'm the board president for the Port Angeles Farmers Market, and I would just like to comment on your discussion about the schedule for the council members. First of all, it's great having them come there, and but I do support the idea of diversification of the venues, because I think it's important for the council members to have maximum, or for the community members to have maximum access to their council members. And we all know that, the wintertime, besides the fact that it's uncomfortable, there is a lot of decreased traffic at the market in the wintertime. So it would make sense to diversify into other venues and to give other demographics of the community opportunities to have access. That's good, that makes sense. So I fully support that. I do want to let the council know as well that the Farmers Market puts out a weekly newsletter to all who sign up for it, and it usually runs right around 600 people that sign up for that newsletter. And we will be posting the schedule for the council members that are going to be there in that weekly newsletter. So it will go out to approximately 600 people each week who's going to be there. So that's good to know. But I do fully support that idea. Great idea. The library, the senior center, wherever. So anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to address the council?
Michael Peters, 405 East Front Street. I just want to say thank you very much for your action today, and let you know that the council is reviewing the same document, and we'll be passing that on Thursday. But I wanted to add just a couple little facts for you so you know that this project, we're extremely excited about it. I feel like I need to apologize that it took us this long to get to this point. We needed to do some due diligence, I guess is the correct term, and looking at some of the cleanup in particular. But the end result is going to result in, our estimate is 50 to 75 jobs with a payroll of $1.9 million annually, and it will bring $1.1 million in vendor purchases annually also. I think that's a big impact for our community, and we're looking forward to having that happen in the coming year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Arthur Wojnowski, 1714 West 6th Street. I just wanted to say, actually more so to Corey, that the benches look wonderful. I just have one little observation. We might want to think about putting speed bumps on the top of the bench as well, because back 10, 15 years ago when I used to grind, I could easily do it on top of that.
Well, it's multi-purpose now, right?
We discussed that up here, and we were thinking there were 3/4 second ranges.
Yeah, we have a pretty good view that I could jump pretty high. Not my knees and back anymore, but when I was their age, I could easily do that too.
Anybody else who would like to address the council this time? All right, well, that closes our, well, that ends our second public comment, and we are adjourned.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
That's also true, but it was. I like the idea of you guys meeting there, but what's the
Oh, he just said it has to be approved, it has to come from the city on down.
Even better.
In other words, the city has to, well, the city carries theirs.
Yeah, that was probably the other
Oh, yeah, it could be anywhere in the senior center.
stuck upstairs. On the couch that I sit on.
The couch there, or actually, I was sitting on the chair. I talked to her this morning about it directly.
I think what I heard tonight. College, no, might not be a bad place either. I don't see that. I go to the grocery store.
That's the last thing I want to do.
They do quite a job.
Anyway, but yeah, so we'll see.
And Rudy Fry's down there before, they do a decent job. Gary Bear's yard was big. Oh, man. Rooster tail.
No, that's the other one.
It's all the same.
But we're, yeah, from the airport.
The other thing that we're seeing is
I read through the police coordinates.
I was there, which is, look at the county, they have that great year. Great.
It just kind of
I mean, over time,
like after
This was,
Richard saw the live feed on the Facebook, YouTube, the president.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just sent me a text message saying that he was watching.